Hare Krishna Sadhguru. Are you here?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, all glories to great, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, we're live. Can you play Prabhupada state?
Okay.
Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiro Banachari Jamuna Tiro Banachari Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiro Banachari Yamuna Tiro Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Muspa Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Siddhareshwara Samada Pridhanta Saraswati Goswami Bhagavad Ki Jai Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Ki Jai Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Khanda Radha Khanda Giri Govan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki की जाए, जमुना माई की जाए, न्यू द्वारका धाम की जाए, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जाए। ऑल ग्लोरी टू जसमीत, ऑल ग्लोरी टू जसमीत। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the beloved speaker for today, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu, and all glories to assembled Vaishnavi devotees. We thank you all for being here as always. Today is Wednesday, the 18th of March, 2026. We are 2 days away from entering into spring officially. And SALIKA Prabhu, thank you so much for being here. Without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and you may start speaking. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.
And about to all of the Vaishnava devotees on the platform. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narayachaivam Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatu Jayam Udirayet Nasta Apraisu Abadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttaman Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishike. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan, Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, by regular attendances in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the earth is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter 16. We're taking from text number 32, which is a continuation of reading from the subtitle, Two Doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jaya and Vijaya, caused by the sages. Sanskrit text read thus. Dvastva adistya bhagavam vimanam sreni bhusanam sarvatisaya lakshmiya justam swam dishnyam dvisa avisahat dvastav adistya bhagavam vimanam sreni bhushanam Sarvati Saya Lakshmiya Justam Swam Dishnyam Abhisahat Dwastra Vadisya Bhagavan Vimana Sreni Bhushanam Sarvati Saya Lakshmiya Justam Swas Dishyam Abhisahat. Word for word translation. Dwastahal, to the doorkeepers, Adisya, just directing them. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vimana Sreni Bhusanam, always decorated with first class airplanes. Sarva Atisayaya, in every respect, extensively opulent. Lakshmiya, opulences, just bedecked with from his own Dishneyam abode. Avishad went back. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhai Charanaravinda, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Patita Pavan Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After thus speaking at the door of Vaikuntha, the Lord returned to his abode, where there are many celestial airplanes and all surpassing wealth and splendor. Purport by His Divine Grace, Labai Charanaravinda, Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Patita Pavan Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It is clear from this verse that all the incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha Loka. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuntha Loka, but were at the gate. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha Loka? But actually, they did not enter. And therefore, they returned. There are many similar incidents where great yogis and brahmanas, by dint of their yoga practice, have gone from this material world to Vaikuntha Loka. But they were not meant to stay there. They came back. It is also confirmed here that the Lord was surrounded by many Vaikuntha airplanes. Vaikuntha Loka is described here as having splendid opulence, far surpassing the splendor of this material world. All other living creatures, including the demigods, are born of Brahma, and Brahma is born of Lord Vishnu. Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 10th chapter, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. Those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, who are conversant with the process of creation, and who understand that Vishnu or Krishna is the most worshipable object of all living entities, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnava. The Vedic hymns also confirm this. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. The goal of life is to understand Vishnu. The Bhagavatam also confirms this elsewhere. Foolish people, not knowing that Vishnu is the supreme worshipable object, create so many worshipable objects in this material world. And therefore, they fall down. Umagyanam timirandasya gyanam gyanam shalakaya shaksho militam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Tapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Pada Antikam Bandyam Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Saha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganam Ragunatam Vitantam Saajivam Sadvitam Sabadutam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Sri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shruti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yatkripatam Bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktitita Swami Iti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupadaya Asitatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Chiteti Namine Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prasatyade Satarine Vanchakarpataru Vyascha Kripa Sundubhyas Ivaschaha Patitanam Pavashnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Dvastav Adisya Bhagavan Vimana Sreni Bhushanam Sarvatsasya Lakshmayaha Justam Swam Dishniyam Avisahat. After thus speaking at the door of Vaikuntha, the Lord returned to his abode, where there are many celestial airplanes and all surpassing wealth and splendor. Hare Krishna. So we welcome all of the devotees to this auspicious moment of directly associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here, the Supreme God is speaking. And Krishnas have stated, and all of the Parampara Acharyas also have mentioned it, that Krishna, unlike the living entity, his words, his forms, his pastimes, his activities, everything about the Lord is not different from the Lord, because the Lord is absolute. As living entities, we can see with our eyes, eat with our mouths, smell with our nose. But the Lord can talk with his hand, walk with his eyes, and all of the different limbs of the Lord can do the work of other limbs. And that is the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we speak, when we hear, when we sit down in the arena where the Lord is speaking, or these devotees are speaking about him, we're directly in the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And according to the Acharyas, especially in the Vaishnava tradition, it is said that this is the perfection of human life. Because for that person who hears just once the kata, the name of the Lord in his ears. He has overcome the greatest danger in human life. In human life, the living entities have itemized so many challenges. But the wise have explained that the greatest of all challenges that cannot be defeated by any argument are four in nature. And they are associated with birth, death, old age, and disease. So for one who hears this narration, this kata, is automatically freed from these four greatest challenge of every living entity born. From the highest personality giving birth to Lord Brahma and the Indra Gopa, the smallest entity, he who has the opportunity to hear this kata has already surmounted these challenges. Due to long association with material nature, one may immediately live after this body, or he may live in the next body, or in the 100 bodies to come. But as Bhagavatam says, uses the word nirnitam, the ascending to the abode of the Supreme Personality of God is guaranteed for one who hears this kata. So it is the most auspicious moment in all of the activities of the living entities. So devotees of the Lord understand this. And one will ask, but we have been hearing this all our lives. At least some of us, or many of us, have been hearing it for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So why have we not gone? Because the essence is in the quality of hearing. And because our ears are covered due to so many dust accumulated life after life. As it is said in the pre-Bhagavatam verse that we read, Nasta aprayesu abadresu nityam Bhagavatam sevaya Bhagavati utamans loki bhakti bhavati naistiki, that by regular attendance into these classes, the dust that is covering our ability to hear is gradually being removed. So therefore, there is a need for consistencies. As we continue to hear, someday, one day, the cleansing will become effective. Because just by hearing just once, Krishna, Srila Rupa Goswami said, these two vowels, Krish and Na, is the ultimate goal of life. For one who hears them, he attains the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Lord Krishna himself, he said in the Bhagavad Gita, that one having attained this place will never come back to this material world. So it is the most glorious moment to come here to hear about Srimad Bhagavatam. And any portion, any part of the Bhagavatam that we hear takes us one step to the ultimate goal of human life. So today we are reading the continuation of significance of continuous hearing. The four Kumaras, the sons of Lord Brahma, they heard from Lord Brahma, their father. Just like we're trying to hear now. They heard there is this supreme person, because the nature of every child is that he sees his father as the supermost person. We all have this experience when we were young. Who is your hero? My father, because there is no person superior to our father. So Lord Brahma was considered to be the supreme person in the whole of existence by the four Kumaras. But their father, by his causeless fatherly affection, he gave them the incense. He said, "Oh, yes, I'm worshipped." In the earlier part of this Bhagavatam, this conversation has taken place. Yes, I'm seen as the most supreme person, but actually there's a worshipable person that is above of me. from whom everything comes from. Ishwara Paraman Krishna Sakchit Ananda Vigraha Anadi Adi Govindam Sarva Karanam. That there is one supreme person. He is Krishna Govinda. And like this Western scripture, the Bible tells us, faith comes from hearing. Hearing what? Hearing the word of God. So when the four Kumaras, when they heard about the glories of the Supreme Personality of God, they wanted to go there. That is the beginning of their perfection of life. So they wanted to see what is actually that personality. So they decided, they said, we must travel to that place. But intention alone is not enough. So the Acharya says that, especially in devotional service, there is the combination, need of the combination, as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. Sakshadarit vena samasara sasi uktas tata bhavya eta sadhi kintu prabhu ya priya evatasi vande guru sri charana ravindam. By the causeless mercy of the Guru, one gets Krishna. And he controls. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada. Yasya prasada nagati kutopi. By the causeless mercy of the benevolent of the spiritual master and the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is what happens to the four Kumaras. When the four Kumaras get to the gate of Vaikuntha, because the abode of the Lord is not a place where you can just walk into. In the material world, United States of America is considered God's own country, and everybody knows how difficult it takes to get there. And even the president of the nation says, even if you have gotten here, I can decide to send you away. But that is the difference between that place and the spiritual world. So the four Kumaras went on a journey and they went to the Vaikuntha gate, and something happened. A scenario happened. In the text 2 of this chapter that we are reading, their desire coincide with the desire of the Lord. In text number 2 of this same chapter that we are reading, the Supreme Personality of God has said that these attendants of mine, Jah and Vijay by name, they have committed a great offense against you because of ignoring me. This is very powerful. The Lord desires something, and the four Kumaras, their desires aligned with the Supreme Personality of God. So they became a beneficiary of the grace of the Lord. That is the storyline. So Krishna is saying, this Vijay and Vijay, they didn't just come here because their desire aligned with what I am desiring. They come here. So Prabhupada said in the purport to that text, to commit an offense at the feet of a devotee of the Lord is a great wrong. Even when a living entity is promoted to Vaikuntha, there is still a chance that he may commit his offenses. This is a very powerful statement in devotional service. As we all strive to become a bhakta, we become a devotee. Even when we are situated in Krishna consciousness, we have to be extremely cautious. And that is why the whole of the essence of the story of the four Kumaras, Jai and Vijay, centered around this point, that the alignment of the desire of the devotee must be in connection with that desire of the Supreme Personality of God. So the four Kumaras, because they desire to see the Lord, and the Lord also desires, and the desires align, they came into a position where they got the double mercy. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Brahmananda Brahmite Konya Bhagya Wan Jiva Guru Krishna Prashade Bhakti Lata Bija. When that configuration of the double mercy of Guru and Krishna comes together upon his soul, it comes into a position. And the four Kumaras came to the gate. They wanted to go to Vaikuntha, but they don't have the visa. But they have a great personality. Why are they great personality? Because they desire to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So sometimes devotees ask, well, I'm unqualified to become a devotee. I have so many limitations. The Lord is not interested in your qualification. Lord Krishna is not interested in the qualification that you have. Krishna is interested in the desire. That is why he said, Tesham saktata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam jenamam upayanti te. If you could just desire to love me, I will make the arrangement to perfection. You don't have to worry about anything. They didn't have the visa, but because they desire to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they have this desire, their desire aligned with the will of the Lord positioned them. And when they got to that gate, just because they get to that gate, the aroma of the tulsi that is offered to the lotus feet of the Lord comes to their nostril and they perceive it. And just by that contact alone, they become a devotee. And in the further text of this chapter, that emphasis is being explained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the four Kumaras, the first qualification is that they are Brahmins. They should not be offended to. But the second thing is that they got the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the double mercy of the Guru, their father. So after all of the drama that happened, we have been hearing the story in the last month. And this verse we are reading today is talking about the closure of those activities. And after the whole of the drama, the Lord has established the purpose behind all of the pastimes. So the Lord sent them forth. Jaya and Vijaya was sent back. And in this text, Prabhupada emphasizes on four basic points. Prabhupada described and emphatically clarified. His Grace Sadeh Prabhu was asking a question. How can they come back when they have entered the Vaikuntha planet? So Srila Prabhupada is answering that question in this text. The sages were at the gate of Vaikuntha, not inside. So the fact that they are in Vaikuntha, it is said they are in Vaikuntha. So one day we were in a conference.
M-A-E-R-S-K-L-A.
One day we were in a conference, and the moderator of the conference was asking questions. He said, how many of you have been in Qatar? And two persons raised their hands up. And the moderator, the host of that conference, he pointed to one of the persons that raises their hand. He said, okay, you have been to Qatar. And then he said, what is the landmark you see when you come out of the Qatar airport? And the guy became dumb. He said, you were in Qatar. There is a landmark. And once you come out of the airport, there is something. You can't miss it. Nobody goes to Qatar and not see it. And he was dumb. He couldn't speak. And then after long conversation, the host asked the man, which part of Qatar did you go to? And he said, actually, I did not enter into Qatar. I was traveling to somewhere So I had this layover in Qatar. I was at the airport. And they all said, no, but my dear friend, you have not been to Qatar. I'm talking about somebody who has been to Qatar. So here, Srila Prabhupada is clarifying the sages, they were at the gate. They are not in Vaikuntha, so therefore they could come back here. So that's the first point. So Srila Prabhupada said, because of their attainment of Brahmanica qualification, the yogis and Brahmins who are of qualification, they can go to Vaikuntha, just like that man in the story of my narration, get to Qatar airport. But it was in Qatar, in quote, but it was not in Qatar because he never entered the Qatar city. So Srila Prabhupada is emphatically explaining here the question that Sadeh Prabhu was going to ask yesterday. Prabhupada answered it several years back, that these sages were not inside Vaikuntha. They were at the gate. And because they were at the gate, so they had to go back. Although they got the blessings of the Lord, they became a devotee of the Lord, but they had to go back. So Srila Prabhupada give us a very outstanding analysis of the difference between Vaikuntha and the material world. It gives us a description as we found in the text that we're reading. And Prabhupada gave 5 very uniquely areas of differentiation of Vaikuntha and the material world. In the earlier chapter, in the chapter 15 of this same canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, in chapter 15, there is an elaborate explanation of the nature of the Vaikuntha planet. In Vaikuntha planet, Prabhupada uses 5 distinguishing factors to distinguish between the nature of Vaikuntha and the material world. Sometimes people ask, we don't know how the spiritual world looks like, but because the devotees of the Lord can see, so they come here and they explain it to us. In the material world, mobility, movement is mechanical, it is limited, it is perishable. In the 3rd canto, chapter 15, from text number 18 down to 23, Prabhupada described the difference between the nature of this Vaikuntha planet. That it is not only the material world that we have a nice car, no matter how much wonderful plane or aeroplane or any movement of mobility, there are many, as mentioned in the text we are reading here, the Vimanas. In the material world, we drive cars, aeroplane, but they have their limitations. They can only go to some extent. But in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha planet, it's a celestial realm where there is no need for efforts. And when I read this for the first time, I remember the story of a man who wants to drive an aeroplane. A man who wants to drive an aeroplane, he was working as a cleaner at the terminal of an airport. So because he has to clean, he goes into the plane when the passengers have dropped before the plane takes over. And he walks into the plane cockpit, which is, of course, a restricted place. But because he was doing the cleaning, he went in there. And he saw on the table, beside the pilot's seat, how to fly an airplane, part 1. And he read through it. And he said, oh, so it's so simple. Anyone can actually fly an aeroplane. And he kept on pressing the button. And he was following the guidelines. But when he got into the mid-air, the book got to the end of part 1. And he said, to know how to land an airplane, go for the part 2. Unfortunate for him, he wasn't having an part 2 with him here. But the Vimanas, the place in the spiritual world, requires no effort. By the will of the Lord and his devotees, they move. The opulence in the spiritual world, it cannot be in any way compared to the opulence in the material world. In material world, wealth is temporary. No matter, we have not seen any person who has been consistently wealthy from the beginning to the end of his life. There must be an ups and downs. There is always an anxiety. If someone does not have wealth, it's an anxiety to have wealth. If he has wealth, it's an anxiety so that it doesn't get taken away. But in the spiritual world, wealth is infinite. No anxiety. And it is blissful. In the material world, the nature of this material world is that everyone has to go through birth, death, old age, and disease. There has to be a diminishing factor. But the spiritual world is different. It's complete opposite of that because it is eternal. There is no cycle, no karma. The atmosphere is blissful. And Prabhupada described in those texts of chapter 15 of this same canto how blissful the spiritual Vaikuntha planets are. While the living entities in the material world are conditioned and are bound by the influence of karma, the liberated soul in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha planet, are completely liberated because, and they are eternally serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada went further in the purport to explain, after explaining the nature of the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada explained that Vaikuntha planet, as glorious as it is, the residents of that planet knows the worshipable Lord. They know that Lord Vishnu, Krishna, is the supreme origin of all creations. And so Srila Prabhupada quoted the verse, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, Mata Sarva Prabhatate. That every one in the spiritual world, they understand that Krishna is the supreme worshipable Lord. And Prabhupada paraphrased again the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2, text number 68. That Krishna is the supreme worshipable deity. The ultimate goal is to worship him. Every endeavor must culminate in understanding and worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the same statement is collaborated in the statement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, text number 19, where Krishna says, Bahunam Jammanam Ante, Genavam Mam Prapadyanti, Vasudev Sarvami Iti, Samahatma Sudu Alaba. That after many, many births, those who actually realizes the ultimate goal, they come to realize that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the worshipable object. So they engage in his devotion and service. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, Lord Krishna says, Vedaham Sarva Aham Vedyo. By all the Vedas I am to be known. And indeed, Krishna says, I am the compiler of the Vedas. And because I'm the compiler, I know the Veda. And by all the Vedas, I am the ultimate goal. So Srila Prabhupada, in that phrase, quoted, Srila Prabhupada quoted a very, the Puranas, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam, Sada Pasyanti, Suraya. the supreme abode, and the eternal goal is Vishnu, Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. So in the purport that we're reading, Srila Prabhupada, in this last paragraph of the purport, concluded by explaining very elaborately, after quoting the Vedic hymns, that the goal of life is to understand Vishnu. And this is elaborated in so many stories from our scriptures, from the lives of the great personalities. When we look at the stories in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the same first canto, chapter 3, text number 28, Sukadeva Goswami said, Eten Shamsam Palam Pumsha, Kala Pumsa, Krishna's too, Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the ultimate. When he was describing to the sages that all the incarnations, as many as possible incarnations, they are plainly portions, and portions of the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. And Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam confirms the same thing. When he gave the 9 processes of bhakti, Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. That Krishna, Vishnu, is the ultimate goal. So Prabhupada is explaining that those living entities and even demigods who does not know this, they try to worship any other objects. So the ultimate goal of bhakti is to come to this point where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped. In the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Lila of the Lord, showing the whole of the universe to his mother, Mother Devi. Several verses explains that Krishna is the origin, the supreme of everything. So those who are wise, those who are intelligent, they worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, in this age of Kali, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and it is said that in this age, Pangam Sangam, those who are intelligent will be known when they worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting this name, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So from the beginning to the middle to the end of all the revealed scriptures, one who is intelligent comes to this conclusion that Krishna is a worshipable object. And one who does not take this as the ultimate object of worship, Srila Prabhupada concluded the purport by saying that person falls down. And that indicates that his life becomes miserable. So as we come into the closure of this Leela of the 4 Kumaras visiting the Vaikuntha planet, and we'll be going into the next phase of the story, where Jai and Vijay enter into the womb of Deity, Mother Deity, will be entering into the another pastimes. But summarily, this all of the narrations from the previous chapter and the last 2 chapters of this canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole of the stories of the 4 Kumaras is giving us basically 3 lessons: that the nature of the superior spiritual world, the Vaikuntha planet, it gives us the understanding that opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his abode is beyond material imaginations. And that is highly documented in the chapter 15. And in the last 3-4 verses of this chapter that we're reading, Lord Krishna, in his Vishnu form, is assuring the Jai and Vijay that do not worry. You have my guarantee. You will return back to my lotus feet. When we check the text number 29 of this verse, Lord Krishna is assuring the four Kumaras that the Jai and Vijay, that after their brief visit to the material world, because there is devotees, they will surely come back to attain his lotus feet. And that is the conclusion of all of the summary of the pastimes of the four Kumaras, that ultimately, that the ultimate attainment of progress is to come to the Vaikuntha consciousness or God consciousness. That anything outside of that, like Shukadev Goswami said, is a total waste of human life. So that is why, in the beginning of this discussion, we're emphasizing the glories of hearing the name, pastimes, and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who actually auspiciously, consciously hear these narrations is guaranteed the going back home, back to the supreme abode of the Lord. So to the degree we are listening carefully and attentively, hearing these pastimes, to that degree, our journey back home, back to Godhead is shortened. And that is the essence of all of this narration, that the Lord has played all of these pastimes. And as we go into the next phase of the pastimes, the takeaway is that the Lord has enacted all of these pastimes because the Lord ultimately wants to take us back home, back to his abode, and to live eternally in his eternal kingdom with him, serving him in loving devotion and service. Hare Krishna. So I'll stop here. And if there are some questions, some comments, corrections, or just as much if there is some mistakes committed. Because even if Jai and Vijay commit mistakes, who are we to think that we are free from making mistakes? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
for sharing this beautiful Krishna Katha. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, you may want to ask or share, please indicate as usual by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your reflections. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, this Leela of Jai Vijay is interesting in the sense that in our material world, there is this statement, damned if you do, damned if you don't. The gatekeepers were rendering their service as they have always been doing. And one day, just continuing doing their service, they are deemed committing offense. And for that offense, even though they unwillingly had to come to Earth planet, the Supreme Lord also sanctioned it. So when I follow this pastime, it kind of make me believe that it is not as easy as we may think to serve the Lord. In the sense that when we're serving the Lord, it is not a matter of we are right or we are wrong. It's up to the Lord what he decides. Because the Lord said that he has the power to nullify the curse of the four Brahmanes. But it's not going to nullify the curse. It's going to make it take effect. But don't worry, I'll be with you. So I'm thinking that it is very difficult to worship the Lord. And if I am right that it's very difficult to serve the Lord or worship the Lord, be the Lord's servant, how can we who are trying to become servants of the Lord endure this service when our desires are not being fulfilled, or when the Lord wants to do things that we originally did not plan for, but the Lord wants to enact them? What do we do in such situations?
Last part of your question, sorry. Can you repeat the last part of the question?
How do we continue to serve the Lord? How do we endure our devotion to the Lord when the Lord decides to do things that were not our plans or our expectations?
Very good question, sir. Adefolo. That is why in the purport, Srila Prabhupada ended this purport of this text by giving a very nice quotation. Aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarva prabhatate iti matva bhajante maham buddha bhava samaham vita. That those who are wise, they do not have a separate desire. The real pain for the living entity is that they are having a desire separate from that desire of the Lord. In one of the previous verses, it is explained the Lord had promised the Jaya Vijaya that they will not experience anything, pain, because He is the Supreme Personality of God, is going to be with them. That may bring the question of whether they will not have a physical pain. That is a different topic entirely, because as long as there is this material body, there will be a pain, there will be pleasure. But because the pure devotee is not on the bodily platform, so he does not feel the pain. In the way in which you and I are thinking of. So what it's basically telling us is that when we don't have a separate desire from the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we don't have any cause to worry. And that is what the Lord was saying in the concluding part of that pastime in text number 29, where you paraphrased, where the Lord says that both Jaya and Vijaya, they should depart and go, they should go ahead. That He's sending them But he said something very unique in that text. He said, all glories unto you. And when you check the purport of that text, text number 29, Srila Prabhupada explained that, as I explained in the connection with text 26, Prabhupada went back to reference text 26 and said that all the incidents that took place had the approval of the Lord. Ordinarily, there is no possibility that the four sages could be so angry with the doorkeepers. Nor could the Supreme Lord neglect his two doorkeepers. Nor can one come back from Vaikuntha after once taking birth there. All these incidents, therefore, were designed by the Lord himself for the sake of his pastimes in the material world. So that is the behind the scene picture of what is going on. So a devotee is never worried because he knows the Lord is always there in all circumstances. So when we worry about circumstances or situation, it means that we are not fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in another purport, somewhere, the purport explained in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, talking in reference to Dhruva Maharaj, Prabhupada was explaining that when a devotee is going through challenges in the material world, his sadhaka is thinking, oh, I'm reducing all of the reactions to my past karma. And when he's experiencing pleasure, things seemingly are going very fine. He says, oh, I'm exhausting the result of my pious karma. So therefore, pleasure and displeasure for a devotee, he doesn't care because he knows these are all material. And when you check the 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna confirms this when he starts explaining that this is the quality of those who are my devotees. They do not care about pleasure or displeasure, pain or pleasure, because they have transcended that level of consciousness. So what seemingly is like a pain, or we see as a displeasure, a pure devotee is not seeing it like that. Because the Lord is always coming there. There is a very nice pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur. In the ancient times, unlike now that things are a little bit more expanded, one who is not Hindu is not allowed into the temples of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And a great devotee like Haridas Thakur, although he was not stopped because he was an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of humility, he stayed outside. And because he stayed, he took that humble position. The Lord will every day go to Haridas Thakur with prasadam, just to show that the Supreme Personality of God, in any circumstances, is always with his devotee. So a devotee is actually never worried about any circumstances that he finds him or herself, because he knows that the Lord is there with him. When we study the story of Bali Maharaj, the same thing. Bali Maharaj said, I don't mind, let me go to that lowest level of air, as long as you are there with me. And that is what bounded Lord Vamanadev to remain there with him as his gatekeeper. Because the Lord is always with your pure devotees. A devotee is never worried about everything, because in every circumstances, he's only seeing the Supreme Personality of God. So it's not in anxiety. And that is why it said that a pure devotee of God is always in Vaikuntha, whether in the material world or in the spiritual world. He's always in Vaikuntha because he's only seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is why when Haridas Thakur was being beaten in the 22 markets, he was not seeing those who are beating him as his tormentor. So therefore, when they beat and beat and beat, and they saw he was not dying, they fell into anxiety. And they had to beg him, please, Mr. Haridas, please, can you pretend to have died, so that if not, our master is going to kill us. So a devotee is never worried by the perplexities of material existence. And that is why Prabhupada concluded the purport of the verse that we're reading today, that when the Lord says, all glories unto you, a devotee once accepted by the Lord can never fall down. That is the conclusion of the incident. The whole of the narration is to bring us to this understanding that in conclusion, a devotee of the Lord can never fall down. And the devotee of the Lord is satisfied with this assurance of the Lord. So the question is, how do we relate to this kind of a situation? A devotee relate to it, understanding that the Lord is always with me. Even when the greatest of the greatest challenges is going on, he keeps his focus on Krishna. He's never disturbed or distracted, because no, Krishna is there. I don't know if that answers your question. And then Hare Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes, it answers my question, but there is always but.
Yeah.
And once you know there is but, it means not fully satisfied.
That is to say that we're in the material world.
And so the follow-up question is that, see, this Krishna is some of us may not know, but there is a particular leaf we have in West Africa. One African American recently asked me a question. This lady wanted to find out if in Africa we use lots of greens, like leafy vegetables. So I said, yes. There is one particular greens we use, we call it bitter leaf. And I'm sure, Salika, you know bitter leaf.
Sure.
Madhuvan, Govinda, I believe all the devotees from West Africa, we know bitter leaf. The name is just describes how the leaf is. It's very bitter. Nobody likes to eat anything bitter. But this bitter leaf can be processed in such a way that this bitter leaf will actually turn out to become a very sweet leaf. Because nobody likes something bitter. So even though the leaf itself is bitter, but we have a way of processing it to making it become sweet, and we enjoy it like anything. So Krishna, Salika Prabhu, you are here. Today you are sitting here as a representative of Vyasadeva, the incarnation of Krishna. So this question is to Krishna, but it's now to you. Why is it that Krishna, he knows very well that as living entities, we don't like anything bitter. We don't like something painful. We like something good. And he makes devotional service not so sweet, even though it's sweet. But it's just like the bitter leaf. I use that as an example to this lady that I know. I wouldn't say I know because I haven't tasted it yet. Once in a while I taste a little bit, but I believe that devotional service is very sweet. But at a certain point, it's bitter, it's painful. What you want, you do not get. What you expect, you do not get. What you do not want, you may get. All these are things we get in from devotional service. How then is Krishna expecting us to continually follow this devotional path when it is not so sweet to us as devotees? And it's not sweet because we are not getting our expectations. So the bottom line of my question is that it's similar to the first part of the question. How do we, even in the face of this bitter leaf, continue to stay with this leaf and use it in such a way that it will turn sweet? Because we know that eventually, at some point, there is an amazing sweetness in this bitter leaf, in this devotion. But we are not there yet. But how do we continue in this spirit that someday, at some point, this sweetness is going to come forth? And with that, we continue our service to Shri Guru and Krishna.
Very good question. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada is so expert. When Prabhupada explains a particular subject in any part of the scriptures, Prabhupada will keep, when you want to read Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada will explain so many things. But for you to get the conclusion of what Prabhupada is trying to say in any text purport, look at the first, sometimes the first and second sentence in the purport, and the last, or the second to the last purport. You will get everything that Prabhupada wants to say. When Prabhupada already anticipated the question you are asking now, and that is why when you look at the text we are reading today, Prabhupada directly addresses this question when he gave their verse, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. Our present pain is as a result of ignorance. And acknowledging and admitting the fact that we are ignorant is the beginning of the remedy. Nobody likes to take bitter things, like you said. Even some adults who feels, oh, injection is ordinary thing. Nobody likes to be pricked by a pin needle. But because we know the needle pricking our body in the form of injection is going to bring relief, we absorb it, the pain, with a lot of hope. But then the question is that, just like the Christian will ask, sometimes, I was speaking to someone recently who was saying that one thing about the whole of the saga of Christmas, Jesus dying and rising, is that why would the Lord have his devotee to go through that kind of a pain just to save every other souls? Because Krishna wants to bring out the genuine state of consciousness of the living entity. And like it is said in the educational understanding, you don't understand the level of understanding of the student unless examination is set for the students. So the Lord had to bring in circumstances that would test your understanding. And that is why, to those who are conditioned, the principles of freedom is a restriction. For those who are liberated, it is a principles of liberation. Someone asked the Prabhupada that question: why can you say restricting someone like this, not eating meat, fish, egg, not drinking alcohol, not engaging in illicit sex, which are the natural things that we enjoy here in this material world? How can you say these are principles of freedom? Because yes, that is the nature of this place. But the reality is that everybody is wanting a life of blissfulness, a life that is not affected by any interruptions. And for one to experience that life of interruptions, he has to see life of experience of interruptions so that he can appreciate that life experience. So the Lord, it brings all of this. And because also the living entity is timing in the material world is immemorial, like Prabhupada explained. You cannot trace it. So as the living entity changes body, he accumulates different kinds of karma. And for him to be completely free from this karma, Krishna asked to, in Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion, he says that the process of devotional service, although it is very sweet, it serves as a very difficult process. And he gave the different stages of eradicating karmic reactions. It described them as stage of Kuta, Bija, Prarabdha, and all of those stages, because gradually the living entity is reducing, just like we experience in our day-to-day life. After wearing a cloth for so many days, there are those who doesn't wear one cloth in 2 days. But you can imagine a mechanic coming out from the repairing vehicle, but to get that cloth back to this original state before engaging in those activities, it has to be washed. It goes through a process. So that process of that bitterness is a process to remove the bitterness, to take us to sweetness. And although that activity or process is not in itself bitter, but because Prabhupada will use analogy like a patient that is diseased with jaundice is eating sugar. Sugar by nature is very sweet. But because of his disease state, he's tasting it as bitter. And what is the solution? He continues to do that, eating of the sugar. Although it is bitter in his mouth, because of his disease conditional state, after some times, then he will come to the state whereby he starts tasting the sweetness of the of the sugar that he's taking. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Madhya Lila, I think text number 17, text number 136. It is quoted, Ata Sri Krishna Namadi na bhave griyam indriyani, that the material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name or his devotional service, his form, his qualities, his pastime that are very sweet, his process of sadhana, which is very sweet. When Srila Prabhupada wakes up by 2 a.m. chanting the holy name, a Kanishta Bhakta is crying because he's seeing someone depriving him of his sleep. But when that such same condition soul, when he's awakened to Krishna consciousness, and by rendering the same process of devotional service through his tongue, by chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, tasting the remnant of the food offered to the Lord, he gradually becomes to understand Krishna, that this process is actually not bitter. It is actually sweet. It is also because of his jaundice natural and jaundice likeness disease that is making it look bitter. So when we are told to wake up 3 a.m., take cold shower, sit down, and chant the holy name, when Narada Muni, when he met Dhruva Maharaj, and he told Dhruva, chant the holy name, Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. And Dhruva Maharaj was taking austerity. It was so painful. But those austerity actually are not painful for those who are realized, because it is nectar, but it is stated as bitterness in this, as a result of the disease state of consciousness. I hope that helps a little.
Oh, yes. I'm just hoping that I kind of whet Madhuvan Prabhu's appetite, that he'll be looking for bitter leaf and some pounded yam today.
Yeah.
And when you do have your bitter leaf, remember devotional service. Hare Krishna, you be on mute, Madhuvan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. All grace to the assembly.
Yes, Madhuvan Prabhu.
Thank you very much for keeping the flag flying. From this Prabhu Salika's first question, I want us to look at text 30. Let's go back to text 30. I want us to look at that text critically, and can we display it?
Can we?
Please,
You mean text 30 of 16?
Yes, 30 of 16.
Okay.
I want us to look at it critically. There must be a lot of lessons to be learned, I believe.
Is it in the purport?
Yeah, it's the translation.
Okay.
Okay, they said this departure from Vaikuntha was foretold by Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She was very angry because when she left my abode and then returned, you stopped her at the gate where I was sleeping. So I want to believe that that's the primary cause of their punishment. Because ordinarily, when we look at the situation, it's easier to offend your boss than the wife of your boss. Because the statement explained that she was very angry. And being very angry, that anger cannot just go like that. And it was also explained that it was foretold by her, which means she has already told them that these boys, they will have to leave this position. With this way, with their behavior. Because normally, if one is in their position, or let's look at the scenario. You went to somebody's office, and at this particular time, it's the wife that wants to see the husband, but somehow or the other, the wife was stopped by the gate man. They don't have to stop her. It should have been the discretion of Lakshmi, not their own, either to go in or not, either to wake him or not. So, and then being very, very angry. Now, they didn't say, the statement didn't say she was angry. They said very angry. Therefore, Krishna has to do something about the situation. They have to be punished. But at the same time, Krishna being very benevolent, he tried to satisfy everybody, Lakshmi, the 4 Kumaras, the 2 gate men. So I think the lesson we should learn here is that in every rule, when we are following rules and regulations, we should understand that there should be some exceptions. We don't just follow verbatim, just like some people used to do. You just follow it like that. But I think, such attitude can make somebody to make mistakes. I don't know if that makes any sense. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Madhavan Prabhu, for highlighting that part. Srila Prabhupada is very, there are some times, you see Prabhupada, he will not give a purport to a particular test. And when I see Prabhupada not giving the test, for you to understand, Srila Prabhupada said, this verse is recorded in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 2, 3, 4. If you go and check this text that Prabhupada is talking about, you will understand. No. Sorry, I'm reading. Sorry, I'm reading another place. Sorry. When Prabhupada doesn't give purport in any text, I'm extremely, extremely very cautious to give explanation because the Lord and his activities can only be understood by the Lord himself and his pure devotees. So I try as much as possible not to explain it because it might fall in the realm of speculation. And Bhagavatam is not meant to be for speculations. Even though, yes, what you have shared is making a whole lot of sense. But only the Lord and his pure devotees can understand that Leela. Prabhupada, particularly keeping mum on that text, has a lot of weight. And that's the way I look at it.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Madhavan Prabhu, for that beautiful remark. In fact, this was a verse that Her Grace Chidi Shakti read yesterday. She treated 2 verses, that verse and the next verse, which is 31, which has a purport. And like Salika Prabhu just said, when Srila Prabhupada does not give purport to a particular verse, it's not so easy to comment on it. And that is why I declined asking a question on that verse yesterday. Because I've been wondering, how long have this Jai Vijay been gatekeepers of the Lord? Maybe there are some people who just got hired, maybe just yesterday. Otherwise, who can ever imagine that a gatekeeper who has been doing this service so diligently for so long does not know Lakshmi? Obviously, they know Lakshmi. And so for them to also stop Mother Lakshmi means that it is the same Krishna who is preparing the scene. We had also read where Sri Krishna was saying that Mother Lakshmi is so dear to him because she never moves, that Mother Lakshmi moves. So we read it from here, how Mother Lakshmi sometimes moves away from Krishna. But I am 101% in agreement with Salika Prabhu. With my crazy brain, I like to speculate. But I try to stay away from speculations when Srila Prabhupada doesn't say anything about it. But still, even though I may not talk about it in public, but in my own head, I love to speculate why this is the case, why that is the case. Govinda Prabhu, please you be on mute.
Yeah, Govinda, just a second before you.
Yeah.
When I see questions like this comes to the mind, I just quickly remind myself of what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Karmano yapi bodhyavyam bodhyavyam chavika manam akamanascha bodhyayam gana kamano gate. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. And in the last sentence of Srila Prabhupada to that purport, to that text, Prabhupada said, to understand all this, one has to associate with authorities in Krishna consciousness and learn the secrets from them. This is as good as learning from the Lord directly. Otherwise, even the most intelligent person will be bewildered. So when you look at certain pastimes and the Lord speaks directly to it, or is pure devotee speaks directly, you just get satisfied with it. Otherwise, the best is just to listen to what they said. Otherwise, one will run into big trouble. Because when you look at the activity, and that was why I started the explanation of this text we're reading today by referring to the picture that was painted by the Lord himself when he appeared at the scene. He said in that text number 2 that I quoted, this same chapter we're reading, Lord Krishna said that they ignored him. Vijaya and Vijaya ignored him. And that's a big one. If the Lord is saying that they ignore, how can they ignore the Lord? So it simply means that their desire at a point does not align. And they find themselves. So the Lord, he allows multiple of actions to happen, fulfilling so many things, ultimately in one particular activity. So therefore, it becomes very difficult to actually explain. So therefore, Prabhupada said, one should just listen to the Lord himself say that, or his pure devotees, or else one just leave it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Govinda Prabhu, yes, you may go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much, Sadhu Prabhu. And thank you very much, Salika Prabhu. Wonderful presentation. My obeisances to you, and my obeisances to the assembled devotees. Thank you very much for the discussion. Actually, I feel very, very much excited, and I feel so blessed. And I'm very, very thankful to Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara for inviting us to this wonderful party of Krishna consciousness. What we are doing here is amazing. It's really, really amazing. I'm assuming it as like passengers traveling together. And at a point, like sometimes we do transit when we are, traveling by airlines. We do transit and we have to spend like 30 minutes or something at one particular place. And all the passengers going to that destination, they all have to group at one place. And is that amazing that the place that they are going, they are all talking about that place, how to get there, what is going on there, how the people, how the streets looks, the trees, the beauty of the country, what is expected, what to do, what not to do, the preparations and everything. And then at a point, the airline, the plane will come and all these passengers will board the plane, and finally they will get into this destination. So that's how I'm seeing all of us here now as a passengers traveling to Vaikuntha Loka. And now we are discussing how to get there, what is going on, what happened, and all that. So that is very, very amazing. It's all by the mercy of our Guru's wonderful, mercies that they have given us. That has brought us all together to be having this kind of discussion. And it's very, very amazing, and it's very exciting. Now, my question is, Prabhu, actually, like Sadi Prabhu initially said, that Krishna consciousness is very blissful. And sometimes you have a little bit, just a little bit of taste, a little bit of the taste of that bliss. So when we are, sometimes engaged, we are fully engaged in Krishna service, we feel so much blissful, so much blissful. So that means that we have actually lifted our minds from all materialism, all material thinking, and all the body direction. And so we connect to the soul, and that brings that joy. So, and then when we are like, we are doing kirtans, the peak of the kirtan, unless you are not participating, you see that you forget about yourself, you forget about everything, you cease thinking practically. You cease thinking, and the kind of bliss that you go through, that you enjoy, you cannot describe it. And after that strong kirtan, that bliss, when you come down, you don't even want to eat food. You lose appetite for anything, material. After some time, then you have the appetite to again descend to that material platform. So my question is, see, now we are here in the material world, and so there are so many responsibilities in connection to the body, and so it's very hard to stay on that level of Krishna consciousness all the time, to stay on that high level of Krishna consciousness. So is it possible for us to be in this kind of bliss as we are still in the body? Or that bliss will be 100% experienced after we have left the body? And if we are to experience this bliss as we are here, we are still living, how do we achieve it? How do we do that?
Thank you very much.
Because we cannot always be in kirtan. We cannot always be in deity worship. You cannot always be in practical devotional service that gets us absorbed in that kind of Krishna conscious level to give us the bliss. So we are engaging so many things at the same time to have to be Krishna. How do we stay in the bliss, in the realm of material association? How do we stay in that bliss?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. You said so many things. Actually, you spoke, you asked questions, you answered the question, you commented, and you gave us so many nectar in the course of your asking your question. Thank you so much. As you were describing this, and I was just trying to go into the same plane with you as you were traveling in that level of consciousness. And I'm remembering Prabhupada's Lilamrita when the movement started in the West. And we all heard the story of the famous flyers. That was one of the first set of flyers that was distributed by Krishna Consciousness Movement. Stay high. Stay high forever. And it explains the kind of bliss that one experiences when one is in the state of Krishna consciousness. And that is why Guru Maharaj, the Bhakti Tita Maharaj, will always tell us that the secret of success in devotional service lies in our ability to remain and constantly join the movement every day. Because each and every one of us, when we deeply think over the best days of our experience in this process are those early days when we join newly. Because at that time, we don't see the temple president that is misbehaving. We don't see the Mataji that is very offensive. We don't see the God brother that is having some challenges. We don't see that temple commander who is always going behind and committing some apparat. We are always completely blissful in Krishna because we are only seeing that level. But to be able to remain there, which is your question, there is no magic out of it, but to consistently to engage in those services. And that is why I quoted Chaitanya Charitamrita, Atasri Krishna Namadi, that by this same process, whether it is chanting, whether it is deity worship, whether it is arena, whether it is book distribution, whether it is speaking Bhagavatam, whether it is hearing Bhagavatam, whether it is picking flowers for the deities, there is no one service that is lower than the other service. It is the consciousness in which we engage in those services that makes them look different. And that is why in the spiritual world, you find out that all of the devotees in the spiritual world are always eternally, consistently, always blissful. Because why? No one is seeing difference. This duality of this lower service, higher service, higher devotees, lower devotees are all as a result of the dualities of material existence. On the spiritual plane, there is nothing like duality. And because there is no duality, we remain eternally blissful. So therefore, the question, how can we remain in that consciousness of blissfulness and never come down? It's a process. And that is what we experience in the material world. We all are doing whatever we are doing now because we got a taste of it, either by hearing or seeing or getting in contact. And that's why in the earlier part, when we're discussing, we were mentioning that to understand the whole of the scenario of what is happening, one thing that is unique in the whole of this story is how the whole of this drama started just by someone speaking about something. And what is that person speaking? And what was he speaking about? It is Lord Brahma speaking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just by the narration of the nature, pastime, abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the four Kumaras, they wanted to be there. So the Lord gives us the taste when we experience these activities on that level of complete surrender to those service, so that we can be encouraged to engage in those activities in that level of consciousness. But yes, because we have been in the material world for so many millions of lifetimes, because the material body, like a deity on the mirror, is so heavy, and we're in the environment of material nature. So the tendency is that we find ourselves coming back to the bodily consciousness. But the duty, and that is why the process is called, in the beginning, sadhana bhakti. We are practicing. Prabhupada will give a very, very wonderful analogy. The tendency and ability to walk is already in the baby, a day-year-old baby. But he will have to learn to walk. And in the course of trying to walk, he will stumble, he will crawl, sometimes he will bruise his leg. And that is what we experience some days. Chanting becomes like a distasteful thing to us. We don't even want to chant. But because we know that we have to chant, we struggle throughout it. There are days when we chant, we feel like we shouldn't stop chanting. But there are days that when we wake up, we don't even want to talk. This is a result of different level of conditioning as a result of our long association with material body. And this process, Nasta, Apraesu, Abadresu, all of these unwanted misgivings will be wiped away when we constantly. So to answer your question summarily, Nasta Praesu Abadresu, Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya. We should constantly, consistently hear the Bhagavatam. And one day, someday, we'll get there and we'll never come back again. That is what the Lord Krishna promised. To get there and never come down again, we have to consistently, continuously hear. And that was why this discussion today was emphasizing on that point, that to remain in that level of state of consciousness. When I was looking at this verse that we're discussing today, I was just thinking, I said, so Jaya and Vijay Lila is finishing. And it's like we should not finish this discussion of Jaya and Vijay because it's so sweet. But whether we like it or not, the Jaya and Vijay story is ending now, and we're going to go into another pastime. Although the Jaya and Vijay are still the background of the story, but then we'll be seeing, just like in a cinema. So to remain there, to answer your question more directly, Prabhu, we just have to continuously do the same thing. What is that same thing? Hearing, chanting, Vishnu Smaranam, remembering the Supreme Personality of God through all of this process, while we're chanting, when we're worshiping deities, when we're washing the plate, when we're picking flowers, when we're going on Arinam, when we're dancing Kirtan, whatever it is we're doing, is just to consistently and constantly do all of these things. And that is why Srila Prabhupada is the only English writer who will use constantly, always. In English, it is called tautology, but Prabhupada never sees it as tautology. He will say constantly and always together. Hare Krishna.
Constantly together. Prabhu, thank you very much for your response. Yes, it's very nice. But my additional question to this will be, your explanation to this question explains the controlling of the mind, because all our activities are actually engineered by the mind. So we are asked to control our mind and focus our mind only on Krishna. And when we are fully connected to Krishna in that of our mindset, then we can be happy. Now my question is, you see, when you go to psychiatric hospital, the people there are mad. What is going on? Their minds are not working correct. And so they are misbehaving. And they are doing all kinds of things. And so the condition shows in the material world are all mad. Mad people. And so the remedy of our cure to this our madness is the Bhagavatam, as you are just giving to us. But my question is that we cannot stay in Bhagavatam class 24/7. We cannot be in Kirtan arena 24/7. There are so many things we are doing, and at the same time we try to be Krishna conscious. How do we hold the mind even though we are doing our material activities, how do we at the same time engage the mind in thinking of Krishna?
Thank you very much. Krishna says, I'm not lost to my devotees, and my devotees are not lost to me. Because they see me in everything and everything in me. That's the statement of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Whether it is Kirtan, Harinam, book distribution, like I explained, the answer is to develop the consciousness to see Krishna in every of the things. And that is why, again, the same verse, Ata Sri Krishna Namadi, it didn't just say chanting. It said chanting. It talks about chanting. It talks about taking prasadam with our mouth, using our ears to hear, using our hands to worship the deities, to pick flowers for the deities, whatever activities that we are doing. The secret is in seeing Krishna in all of those things. And even when someone comes, seemingly makes us angry, we should see Krishna in that person. In that way, we will not become angry. Someone comes from nowhere and he gives you a dirty slap, as we call it. I don't know which slap is not dirty, but we used to say a dirty slap. So in whatever circumstances, when we develop the mindset of seeing Krishna in everything, and that is why Jesus Christ was able to tell Satan before the beginning of his mission that man does not come for bread alone, because he understands that every activity is connected to Krishna. And again, Srila Prabhupada, expertly, Prabhupada referenced verses. When we look at the verse we read today, Prabhupada ended the purport by quoting very powerful two verses. Am Sarvasya Prabhava. And he quoted Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam, showing that if we are able to come to that state where we see Krishna in everything, then we have become liberated. That quotation is from Rig Veda. So the ultimate understanding is to come to that point whereby we learn to see Krishna in everything. Whether it is washing of the plates, whether it is washing of the toilets, whether it is, but our material mind is such that it discriminates, it distinguishes which is favorable and which is not favorable. When we are glorified by the spiritual master, oh, Bhakta Salika is doing very nice service. With our ego rises so high. And when they say he's a rascal, he's just a nonsense, then we become offended. All is associated with our mind, like you said. So the whole essence is to cultivate our mind in seeing Krishna in everything, and everything in Krishna. And in this way, like Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, 9, text number 2, that this process is the purest of all process. And because it gives direct perception to the self, it is topmost religion. So the secret is in what you just analyze. Just learn to see Krishna in everything, and everything in Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all devotees. Beautiful. I think there is a chapter in Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita that says, stay high forever.
Yeah.
That's what Srila Prabhupada told us, stay high forever. So that's like SALIKA Prabhu said, in whatever we do, we should put Krishna factor in there. Thank you so much. Hansaduta, did you have something to ask?
Yes, I saw his hand many times.
Yeah.
Before we get to him, he disappeared.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Your Grace.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
I have a long, a lot of questions to ask, and some of them.
I think we can take one question.
Yes, it's had been answered, and
Yeah, okay.
I think for explanation from the grace I did from. No, sorry, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Sri Prabhupada, all glory to one of some devotees. Yes, I think Krishna sometimes is very, very difficult to understand him, and there's a things we have to accept them because he knows best. So I think I will reserve my question because yes, I think I was thinking Your Grace SALIKA will be the best person to answer this question, but
Okay.
I think the answer I think is when I answering other questions, I think I have to accept it like that. That Krishna, you have to accept whatever he does. So thank you so much for the wonderful class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you. Yes, we have to accept whatever Krishna does, but at the same time, we also have the liberty to ask questions. And Krishna, yes,
then I'll ask my question.
Okay, so ask one question. Yes, please.
Okay. The question I wanted to ask is, we'll end up with Vijay and the gatekeepers. Sometimes Jai Vijay. So I will start from here. Prophet Moses was somewhere in a shepherd, and Krishna tell him, go and save the Israelites. When Krishna said that to him, he said he cannot go because he's a stamina. And we know that everybody who has a stamina, they have a quick temper. And he said, oh, Aaron will be with you so that he can speak. So he went and do this assignment. He did everything till he got the 10 commandments. When he came back, these people he was going to save, they were doing idol worship. And because of the anger, he broke the 10 commandments. And Krishna get upset and said that because of this, you will not reach the promised land. But these people who he want to save, they went to the promised land. But him, all the service he did, everything he did, just because he has these anger issues. And he broke this, and because of this, he will never reach the promised land. And we didn't know what happened to Prophet Moses. But these people who was doing this idol worship and everything, they were taken to the promised land. And this is something which is very difficult to understand. And at the same time, if you come to the Muslims too, Ali, who is descendant of the Iranians, he was with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, from the beginning. And the first battle, it was ordained by Krishna for them to fight. And there was instruction given to them. And he has to fight with his father. They fight for 24 hours. And he killed his father. And Krishna said, you have done well, but you have killed your father, so I'm going to punish you. So it becomes so much confusion. And at the same time, this Vijay and the gatekeepers, they were doing their duty, and they have to come to this material world. Why is it that they have to be offense before they can come to this material world? Krishna can say that, oh, I want to perform my activity, so come with me. Because the gopis, they didn't commit any offense. But these two gatekeepers, they were doing their duties, but because of the offense, they have to come as a demons. So sometimes if you look at all these things, it's kind of so, it brings a lot of questions to ask. Why does it have to happen like that, Your Grace? If you can help me to understand this. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Prabhu. You answered your question from the first statement you made. Material senses cannot understand the activities of Krishna. Because Krishna is spiritual. To understand Krishna, one has to come to the spiritual platform. And that's the whole essence of what we've been explaining all the while. That activities of Krishna cannot be understood. His pastimes, his activities is beyond the understanding of an ordinary person who is in the material state of consciousness. There are several stories in the scriptures, even in our day-to-day life, that when we look at them, someone will ask, let's take the example of the story in the Bible you've just narrated. How would God, he knew that the Israelites were going to, because the Lord knows past, present, and future.
Yes.
So he knew that they were going to make that, but he allowed them because the Lord does not interrupt the desire of each and every living entity. And in the pastimes of Jai and Vijay, I intentionally went back to text number 2 to reference that statement of the Lord, because even when we become spiritually elevated, my spiritual master will always call it inattentiveness in devotional service. What is that inattentiveness? Inattentiveness is that minute mind of the Jiva Atma desiring to act independently. Although Jaya and Vijaya had no independent desires, but because the Lord wanted something to happen, as it is said in the scripture, whatever Krishna wants to happen, nobody can stop it. Whatever Krishna wants to stop, nobody can. And that is why, like Sadev will say sometimes, Krishna is the spiritual autocratic personality that material world we hate and dislike to a greater extent. An authoritarian, someone who does not, but that is what makes Krishna Krishna, because he's not there is one of Christian song. When they sing that song, I will laugh. I say, I wish these people understand what they are saying. The way they sing the song, they will say that, I'm trying to remember that song. Something your name is Almighty God. You will never share God. That is your name. I've seen them sing it in many churches. You will never share your glory with anybody. Almighty God, that is your name. So when I hear this, my God sister, God brother singing this, I just laugh. I said, I wish they understand what they are saying. Because if they understand, then what will happen? Sarva Dharma Paritya Mame Kam Saranam Braja. They will just simply surrender to Krishna. But these are the same person who are singing this song, but then who invite Krishna to become, in the Nigerian language context, a bandit who will help them to go and kill somebody else. When it comes to unfavorable experience, they will say, no, this is not God. Then God is sharing his position with Satan at that point. He is not the only one, he's not the supreme controller. Somebody says he's controlling something else. This cannot be God. At that time, they will say it's not. That time, by their action, by their word, they say it's not. They know God has a competitor. But when they are singing, it's very sweet, and you see them, they will be dancing very joyfully. You will never share your glory with anybody, Almighty God. That's your name. So if they know that you will not share His glory with anybody, so and He's in control of everything. He's the ultimate source of everything. So why are they saying that somebody is doing something and not Him? So this is how the conditioned soul is like. So that's why I said from the beginning, you explain by answering your question that Krishna is completely independent. And he is never, because ultimately what will eventually happen is what the Lord desires. But word of caution, we must understand that there is a difference between the activities of the Lord and the activities of the living entity. Because it is easier to quickly want to imitate and do some nonsensical thing and say, anyway, it is the will of the Lord that always manifests. It's because the Lord will it. That's why I'm killing. No. Krishna didn't say that. Krishna said, I'm the ability in man. It will make you have it the way you desire, but it doesn't micromanage your desire. It allows you to desire, but it allows it to happen. And it fulfills so many things. My grandfather would say, the God that does so many things in one thing. So that is what God is. When you say Krishna, that's what makes Krishna. I see Prabhu stand up.
Thank you, you agree. Thank you. Sometimes we think about so many things, and yeah, it's Krishna. He do what he likes. So thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu. Prabhu, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I found myself front of traffic lights suddenly. Can you hear me? What?
Audio is breaking.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm back to place, and I so many interesting points section today. Some of the other I can't bring myself to respond to anything, but I just want to say one or two things before we close. And that is just to help some of us, because so many questions are raised, and these are very important questions. Sometimes, I mean, it's not sometimes, we know that consciousness makes us to understand that the Bible better. Krishna consciousness, the very just make us understand other scriptures better. So sometimes when questions are raised based on some of these other scriptures, and we tend to make them look like they are the same conclusion everywhere, it can be dangerous.
Sorry, Prabhu, can you hear Prabhu?
No, I cannot hear him.
Prabhu,
Okay, I'm just arrived now. Now you hear me now. I've just arrived at the time. Yeah, so I'm saying that when questions are asked based on the other scriptures, because Krishna consciousness helps us to understand better all other scriptures. That is given. No doubt about that. But if there are some confusion in the other scriptures, and we make it look like, and it's brought up in Krishna consciousness class, and we make it look like the same confusion is here, it can be dangerous. And that's why I'm trying to respond. I hope my voice is clear. You're hearing this, what I'm saying?
We're hearing
Are you not hearing?
But
Okay. Okay. So what I'm saying is that the question, what is his name? Amsaduta Das asked. It's a very interesting question. And like many other questions asked already. But this one concerning Moses, of course, I didn't hear some other part of
we lost you, Prabhu. We're not hearing you again.
Oh, it's here, but the audio somehow is not working.
Yeah, I think the network where is. And he's trying to make a very important comment on.
Yeah.
not being God asking Moses not to
unfortunately, we cannot hear Prabhuji, so we might do that maybe next time. We've been here for more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we apologize for.
Oh, I wish I could hear these answers.
Yeah.
Because when I agree, sometimes, like His Grace Shima Barad was saying, sometimes in my mind, I begin to think that some things are mixing in the both scriptures. That's why I wanted to hear, because sometimes if you think about all these things, though Krishna do whatever he wants, but sometimes
I think what SALIKA Prabhu was saying, this is Hare Krishna. This is International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We are not technically Christians. We are not technically Muslims. But I heard a little bit about what Shrimad Prabhu was saying, that one beautiful thing about Hare Krishna movement is that Hare Krishna helps us understand better other scriptures. So we may have a better understanding of certain things that happened in the scriptures of other faiths. But
I lost connection, sorry.
Prabhu, are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me? I lost connection, that's why.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry for holding you back. So in brief, what I'm trying to say is that when devotees bring questions from other scriptures, and if our answers make it look like the confusion is everywhere, it's dangerous, because generally Krishna consciousness and the Vedic literatures make us understand better the Bible and the Quran, but much better. So, and like I said, many interesting questions were asked, and of course, many answers were given.
The Vedic scriptures is like Bhakti Maharaj would say.
Yeah.
They are all the scriptures are like a dictionary, and we all know that there is an abridged and there is a enlarged dictionary, and there are abridged dictionary will give you some few meanings, but the large dictionaries will give you multi explanation on the one subject. So when we say that we're not comparing traditions or scriptures, because the Vedic scriptures, not only that they are the oldest, they are the most comprehensive scriptures that is found in the whole of the human existence. And like Gurudev will say, this can be historically, linguistically, and philosophically proven. So we're not speaking something that is sectarian. And when actually you study the history of Christianity, Islam, you cannot disassociate them from the Vedic tradition, because we know from the Bhavishya Purana, the beginning of these traditions were foretold thousands of years before they emanate. So we know that the Christian tradition, the Islamic traditions are secondary, or what in the language of academicians in today's world you will call New Age religion. But when they talk about New Age religion, unfortunately, they talk about the Hindu tradition or Vedic tradition as a New Age religion. But when you go back historically, philosophically, scripturally, you find that the oldest tradition are the Vedic tradition, and the Vedic scriptures are the oldest. So, but in the context in which we are speaking here, we're not comparing each of the scriptures. We're specifically talking about the similarity of a storyline that depicts a particular lesson. And we are saying that, so we are trying to say that some of these activities, the difference between the Bible stories and the Krishna Vedic story is that, like the story of Jai and Vijay we are reading, we are able to read Krishna's inner reasons why this thing happens, whereas in most of the secondary scriptures, the other tradition, you don't find the explanation right there, because they are abridged scripture. So you may not find the detailed explanation of why those pastimes are happening. But the vastness of the Vedic scriptures is that not only that those stories are told, but we understand from the same scripture why these pastimes was taking effect, why it should be, the way it should be seen, what should be learned from it is given. And that is what we are experiencing in the verse, in the story of Jaya Vijaya, because Krishna is telling us that this story, from external look of the story, it looks incomprehensible. But Krishna is telling the scene behind. And like I mentioned, used the word before, behind the scene. So Krishna is showing us that these are the things that is happening behind the scene, that it is not written or it is not displayed in the external display of the activities that happen. Because if Krishna didn't do that, how would we have known that the Jai and Vijay offending the four Kumaras, and four Kumaras causing the Jai and Vijay were all the playthings of the Lord, for the Lord to come to the material world to be able to exhibit his lila of fighting. Because if the Lord doesn't fight, where will the fighting emotions come from? So the Lord also has that fighting emotions in him. So that is what it is. Because in the material world, when you talk about fight, in one person who is not on the part of Vedic scripture will think God cannot fight. But here we are being told, Krishna is saying that that fighting spirit is in me. And for me to display that fighting spirit, it cannot happen in Vaikuntha. It can only happen in this particular apartment. Just like we don't go to our sitting room and start stooling there. We know that we have to, if we are feeling pressed to stool, we'll go to the toilet and go and toilet there. We don't go to the sitting room and start where the visitors and everybody is sitting down and we start stooling there. We don't do that kind of a thing. And we want to bath. The father will say, okay, because I'm the owner of the house. And then he will say, where in the sitting room where the mother and the children are sitting down, and he pull out his cloth and start bathing. He said, because everywhere is belonging to me. No, Krishna is teaching us that he has arrangement for everything. So for him to exhibit the quality of fighting which is emanating from him, he comes into the material world and do it. And for him to do that, he has to create a scenario to make it look like something happened. And ultimately, he will fulfill that his innate desires. So thank you very much.
I think Sade Prabhu's Banku is ready. He wants to talk.
Yeah, but before he goes, please, Prabhu, just let me land because I couldn't finish my statement before you commented. Thank you for your explanation. Sorry to take you back. And I mean, what you've said is just all of the explanations are right. Only that I just want to make some comment about that story in the Bible concerning Moses, and God said that he will not see the promised land. I don't know what is in the Quran in that version, but according to the Bible, Moses actually manifested anger 3 times in the Bible. First, before he was called upon, when he killed the child of the Egyptian child. That was the first time. And then that actually was one of the reasons why he was chosen, because he has this anger, a Kshatriya, just like Arjuna was chosen. So he was chosen to represent God, okay, but he had anger issue because he was a Kshatriya in nature. So he broke the tablet, he broke the 10 Commandments out of anger, yes. And then the third time, according to the Bible, I don't know what Quran says, but according to the Bible, the third time he manifested anger was when they were dying of thirst and they were crying out. And the Lord told Moses, go and touch your rod to the mount, and water will come out. He told him to go and touch the mountain or the rock with his rod, and water will come out. But Moses went there angrily, and he smashed the rock with his rod out of anger and frustration that these Israelites were always complaining. And the Lord was not pleased with him because of this anger issue. Because he was, even though he was an instrument, but he started acting as if it was him that was providing. That is what the Lord was angry with. And we have to be careful also as devotees. When we are instruments, we should not start acting as if we are the provider or we are the ones making this happen. That was what God was correcting in Moses. A very important lesson. So him not being sanctioned not to see the promised land, because you cannot enter the kingdom of God, excuse me to say, example of the promised land, with this kind of anger issues, it will make the promised land also a battle place. So anyway, there are some commentaries about some of those questions asked that we need to know, so that we don't think that why should God act like this? He is his agent and is working for him, but God said because of one thing, he will not see the promised land. The vice that Moses showed is a very terrible one that devotees should avoid. Not to want to claim proprietorship or being, when you are an instrument, making yourself look like I am the doer. And Bhagavad Gita teaches us a lot about that. You are not the doer. So Moses was trying to show that he was the doer, and the Lord was not pleased with that. So anyway, just a little comment I want to make about that question. It's a very important and interesting question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much for this explanation. And I totally agree with your explanation of these points that you explained. And that was why in today's discussion, I took us back to text 2 specifically, because Krishna directly explained what you are saying now in the text 2 of this chapter, and to explain why even when we are serving the Lord, we should not make the mistake of thinking ourselves to be the doer. Krishna is the supreme doer. We're just instruments in the hands of Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, we thank you all as always. And SALIKA Prabhu, we thank you very much. Devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our guest speaker and to all the Vaishnavi devotees. This is Hare Krishna Africa. These devotees, they love to hear and discuss about Krishna so much to the point that if you are hungry, if your intestines are asking you anything, your intestines will be very sorry.
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Hare
Shatakapa
Shaka
Karu,
Patarubia Sakabria Sundabia Ivacha Padivanam Pavanayo Pavanamyo Namo Namaha.
Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Jai. Isko Panda Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai. All glories to assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare
I'm
Krishna.
hungry in my stomach.